So welcome everyone. My name is Bert Scholl. I'm with the Cancer Resource Center, and this monthly webinar, Living Well with Cancer, is brought to you by the Cancer Resource Center and the Cuba Medical Cancer Center. Every month, the third Tuesday from 5:30 to 7. This evening's presenter is Shira Mellon. She's presenting on self-massage and nervous system regulation. And with that, Shira, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. You got it.
All right. So, welcome everyone. As Bert said, I'm Shira. I'm a massage therapist here in Ithaca. I've been doing massage about 6, 7 years at this point. And I've been kind of steeped in nervous system work for the last 4 or 5 years. Um, so yeah, I guess I'll just kind of dive right in and we'll start sort of with an overview. It's going to be really brief, just like in a tiny little nutshell sort of version of nervous system stuff, just kind of basic information so we all kind of land on the same page. Nervous system regulation, nervous system work is sort of a big buzzword these days. So some of you folks might know some of this information, some of it might be new. So we'll just go over a few basic things and then we'll do a couple of simple nervous system practices that you'll be able to take with you, share with friends, relatives, and then some simple self massage techniques. Um, and certainly, as Bert said along the way, feel free to ask questions at any point. You can unmute yourself, say I have a question. We probably at this point all know all the features of Zoom from the last few years. Under the reactions button there, you can raise your hand, the little mechanical hand, pop it in the chat. I'll try to keep an eye on that. There's not a ton of us here, so should be able to keep an eye on that. And then I'll definitely save some time at the end for questions as well. So with that said, let's kind of dive into the nervous system information. Um, so when we talk about nervous system regulation, or at least the modality that I was trained in, which is called transforming touch, um, we're thinking about starting to rebuild capacity in our nervous systems. And whether that's from things that happened long ago, sort of ancestral lineage kind of things that have happened in recent times, could be anything like medical issues, right? Um, Car accidents, all the kinds of things we kind of think about as traumatic, stressful events, low grade chronic stress, things like that can start to dysregulate our nervous system. And when we talk about rebuilding capacity, we're thinking about kind of making a larger swimming pool. Swimming pool analogy, one of my nervous system teachers always talks about this swimming pool analogy. And we can think about a swimming pool that's filled, stuffed with beach balls, and all the balls are kind of smushed right up into each other. And there's not a lot of room. So another ball comes in, there's no room, maybe a couple fly out. So when we can think about this in two ways. We can think about increasing capacity is making the swimming pool larger. So these balls have room to kind of float around and one can come in and one can go out. We can think about capacity as removing balls from the swimming pool. So again, either way we think about it, we think about room for things to move around a little bit more easily. And ideally, when our nervous systems are well regulated or at least reasonably well regulated, all of the things in our system should work pretty smoothly. So our autonomic nervous system, autonomic is kind of the same as saying automatic. Our autonomic nervous system controls all the other systems in our bodies. So the autonomic nervous system also, when we talk about nervous system regulation, we're thinking about sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. Again, probably a lot of us have heard these terms at this point. Sympathetic being sort of the get up and go, the fight or flight. Sympathetic nervous system can get a little bit of a bad rap because we think about it only as the fight or flight. But if we didn't have sympathetic nervous system on board, like I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you, right? We'd all be puddles on the floor if we didn't have some in the right balance, adrenaline, cortisol, all of these things, again, that sort of get these bad raps for being the stress hormones, which is true. And we need them in the right levels to function on a daily basis and interact with people and go for a run or go for a walk, get through our day. And so the parasympathetic is sort of the rest and digest. And this kind of gets named as the good, the good part of the equation. And there's two sides to the parasympathetic where we have the rest and digest, we have the social engagement, the ability to speak with friends and family and do this sort of thing. And the parasympathetic also controls kind of the shutdown mode. So we think of that as freeze, which is fight, flight, and freeze, right? So, there are sort of, I don't like to label them good and bad, but there are, two sides to each coin in the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous systems. Um, so just checking my notes here because I could go on for hours about all this stuff, so I want to keep myself on track. Um, Okay, right. And so we're thinking also about keeping our systems in homeostasis, right? In this sort of optimal functioning level, all the things are balancing, and our systems are always kind of renegotiating as we go along about our day. Um, okay, I'm gonna skip that part. And then I guess one of the last things I'll say about the nervous system, because I want to get into the practices too. Um, when we also think about increasing capacity, we want to think about our window of tolerance. And our window of tolerance basically is kind of the framework in which we function in a day, like what our system can withstand. It's kind of, you could almost sort of equate window of tolerance with the system's capacity. So if someone has a really healthy window of tolerance, right, maybe they, for whatever reason, their system is able to process stress or they, haven't had too many overly stressful or traumatic things happen. Let's say, window of tolerance is a nice, healthy window of tolerance. And we know that life has stressors, right? So we think of life as this kind of wave. And if you can sort of imagine where my hands were, right, kind of like below my chin and top of my head, and we're thinking about the waves, the ups and the downs are all within that window of tolerance. So to think like, oh, well, let's just, be able to be calm all the time. It's not terribly realistic. And I would venture a guess that people might be on the side of dissociated if they're just calm all the time, not reacting to what's happening in life in the world. Um, Especially in, this stressful, modern time. So when we think about our systems after stressful periods, again, this could be a longer term thing. It could be just, dealing with health issues, dealing with family issues, whatever issues are happening, our window of tolerance can get smaller and smaller because so much energy is going towards basic survival, right? So that there's not energy for all the other sort of creative pursuits in life and social engagement and all the things, is like all of our energy goes towards survival if there's continual stress on the system. So if we think about, let's say, window of tolerance is sort of here, right? Like my nose and eyes level, and the daily stressors are still, this is life, right? We're going to be coming up and then below. So we're going to be like any little stress is going to send our systems either into overwhelm or to shut down. So when so that's sort of equating, right? Increasing capacity to increasing that window of tolerance again. And for some of us, it might be that we haven't had a big window of tolerance in a long time. And, it's this interesting juxtaposition of the fragility of our systems, but also how resilient they are. And there's so much research now in neuroplasticity and, starting to being able to rewire things in our systems that, there's really a lot of potential for healing, I think, with this kind of work. So that was a mouthful. Maybe I'll just stop briefly and check in and make sure that was all relatively clear so far. See if anyone has any questions at all. Good. Okay. Cool. Um, so yep. Okay, great. Um, so then a couple of these practices, we'll do a couple of practices and I guess I'll just explain each one as we go along. That makes the most sense. Um, so the first one, and some of these, I feel like they're really surprisingly simple. And what I will say about these practices is it's kind of like brushing your teeth every day or like eating every day or exercising. It's like if you want to run a marathon, you don't go from maybe not running at all, or maybe you run a couple miles here and there, but you don't do two long runs and then you're ready to run a marathon, right? So this nervous system work is really about moving in sort of these slow, titrated, it's often described as titrated ways, because as we rebuild our systems, it's kind of like learning a new language. And if you sort of dump all the information at once, it's not going to absorb. And so nervous system work, I would say the nervous system work that feels to me like truest nervous system work and will have the most lasting long-term effects is going to be, at first it's going to feel like, is this really, can this possibly help? This is so simple. It's just these little bits, right? Because we want our system to really be able to digest and realign and, reconfigure. And that's best done in a really gentle and titrated way. So some of these practices might seem really simple. um, but when you, over the long run, you just keep practicing and practicing and practicing. It's like you start out with a 2 mile run, and then in a few weeks you're up to 4 miles and 6 miles and 8 miles and 10 miles, and just keeps building. So the first one that we'll practice is called orienting. And there's a few options here. You're welcome to stay seated if that's comfortable. And if you're seated, lean back, sit upright. I've got my legs crossed in crisscross right now. You can have your feet touching the floor. If it feels like it might be nice to lie down, if you're near a couch, or lie down on the floor. If you want to stand up, you're welcome to stand up. So just taking a moment to feel into what would be nice for your body right now. Um, and yeah, and that's part of it, is also figuring out like there's not one right way, not a right way to do things. In nervous system work, it's a lot about having a framework and then starting to tune into what your system needs, because we're all so very different that, what I need is not going to be the same thing that Bert needs, and the same thing that, you other folks might need. So for orienting, we think about orienting is a way to connect with the world around us, connect with people around us. Um, there's a sense of curiosity and enjoyment of the world that we can bring into orienting. So the first thing we're going to do is just take a moment to maybe just let your eyes drift away from this screen. You could even close your eyes. I'm going to just close my eyes briefly for a moment. Totally up to you if that feels comfortable or not. And if your eyes were closed, you can just allow them to softly open. and just start to take in whatever's in front of you, right? Whatever your eyes land on first here. So for me, I'll just sort of kind of walk you through what goes through my head as I'm doing orienting. See my cup here on the table. It's green, black lid, it's got a straw. And just take that in. And you can let your eyes start to drift. And again, just sort of wherever they feel like they naturally want to go. Maybe your head starts to turn a little bit. So here I've kind of landed on, there's a nice spider plant here. It's got a whole bunch of babies coming off of it, sitting on top of this little dresser, little shelving unit. And just kind of check out that spider plant. Maybe noticing the shape of the leaves, texture, the colors. And then maybe we let our eyes drift to one more spot. And as you're doing this on your own, you could spend a minute doing this, you could spend 20 minutes doing this. You could, whatever feels appropriate to you, as long as it feels comfortable and easeful, um, for the most part. There's no sort of time limit on orienting. You're welcome to feel into what seems like an appropriate amount of time for you. So finding that third spot to land on. And here I'm noticing candle in front of me. There's some rocks around it. I'm just taking in the color, again, the texture, shape. And then we'll add on the second layer. So the second layer here is as we're noticing, kind of letting our eyes drift around the room. And one thing I'll add about that is, give yourself a good little bit of time, at least a few rounds of breath each place that your eyes land. We don't want what's called defensive orienting, which would be appropriate in like you're trying to cross a busy street, right? And you're looking both ways, back and forth, making sure that nobody's coming. Or, you know, I don't know. That's the best example I can think of right now. But so there are situations where defensive orienting is appropriate. Here, though, we want it to feel like just an easy, thoughtful way to kind of land on things in front of us. So spending at least, like I said, at least a few rounds of breath at each place would be great. Um, so the next layer we'll add on is noticing our body while we're landing on each of these places. So you could certainly kind of revisit one of the places you landed on. You're welcome to, again, just let your eyes start to wander. Ideally, like for this, ideally away from the computer screen. I'm sure a lot of us look at screens too much throughout the day. So let's give our eyes a break from the screen a little bit. And again, if there's nothing sort of right in front of you, allowing your head to gently turn. And maybe so here I've landed. I see the trash can over there by the kitchen. So as I'm taking the trash can in, I might notice the pressure of my sitting bones into the chair below me, right? And then I might notice, yep, I can feel my back leaning into the back of the chair behind me. And I can also feel, I have my arm resting here. There's an arm on the chair, my elbow resting into the arm. Right. And so again, might be simple for some of us, this might also feel strange to some of us. So again, there's no sort of right or wrong. If something feels strange or difficult, that can absolutely happen. So just know that you can sort of notice how something feels. There's not one way we expect something to feel. And as you maybe do these practices a little more, maybe you start to notice that something shifts. So again, taking in maybe your eyes shift somewhere else in the room. And then again, ooh, yep, can I feel my butt on the chair there? Yep. Maybe you can feel your feet on the ground if you've got your feet on the ground. If you're standing, maybe that's the one point of contact that you feel. And then the third layer that we'll add in, and I feel like this might be the trickiest part because we're going to start to bring attention to our breath. And what usually happens when people start to bring attention to their breath is that they change it. It's like, oh, I should breathe deeper, or I should do this, or I should do that. So ideally, we want to just notice what the breath is doing without changing it. And that's on top of feeling your contact with the ground, or it could even be, feeling your clothing against your skin, whatever, feeling your hair against your skin, anything, or like I can notice my glasses sitting on my nose, anything that feels like there's an awareness of body. I'm noticing my belly, filling my chest and my belly, my breath filling my chest and my belly. So the three layers all together can actually start to feel possibly like a lot. Again, maybe for some of us, that feels really natural and easy. And for some of us, it might feel a little more challenging. It feels like, whoa, I have to keep track of the flowers in front of me and my butt on the chair and notice what my breath is doing. And again, that's totally fine that that's where you are right now. And just again, noticing if that shifts over time and not trying to forcibly change anything about that. Um, and certainly, particularly if it feels like all three of those pieces together, it feels a little overwhelming, or maybe even it might even induce a little anxiety or stress about, can I handle all these things? Am I doing this right? Then just go back to either just the two, um, noticing what's around you and feeling some contact with what's below you, or even just noticing what's around you, right? So you can always break it down into smaller pieces and don't feel like you need to sort of force doing anything in particular. So, any questions? We'll just check in here about questions before we move on to the next practice. Again, feel free to unmute yourself, pop a question in the chat, raise your hand.
Yeah, can you just remind us like what doing those series of exercises or awarenesses provides?
Yes. So, all of these practices, the next two that we'll do as well, all of them, the simplest way to say it really is just it helps to start to rebuild the capacity in our nervous systems. And I realized I forgot to say this earlier. When our systems begin to have more capacity, um, I found it refreshing to stop thinking. Yep. When we start to rebuild capacity in our systems can function more optimally. And generally, when we have less and less capacity, that's when disease, disharmony, when things start to manifest in our systems, whether that's physical ailments, mental health issues, certainly autoimmune issues for sure fall in that category. So yeah, so rebuilding capacity helps our systems to function more optimally, which leads to greater health.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Yeah. And yes, it's refreshing to stop thinking. That's awesome that your brain, Mary or Melissa, that your sorry, my little vision is not so good. Um, that your brain kind of decided to quiet down a little bit, which is nice. Okay, any other questions before we go to our second practice? Nope. Okay, cool. So the next one we'll do is called containment. And containment is also very, very simple practice. One that really all of these can be done anywhere, right? We can be standing in line at the grocery store and notice like, oh, there's, the gum by the checkout. I remember chewing Bubblicious when I was a kid, or, fruit stripe gum or whatever it was, Big Red. um, and just sort of taking notice, or like noticing what shoes the person in front of you is wearing, or like, oh, that's a nice blue coat that person has on in front of me. Um, so certainly practice is really easy to bring in anywhere. Maybe I would say if orienting felt a little bit, let's just say quite unfamiliar, then maybe try it at home a few times first, get a little bit comfortable with it, but then you can start to see what it's like to practice these things outside in the world. So containment. Containment is really, overly simply put, is just about kind of making some contact with our bodies. So I'll lower the screen just a little bit. Um, so we're thinking about just placing our hands somewhere on our body, making contact. So for the sake of visibility here, I'll use my upper arm. An easy place often will be the thighs, right? Where I don't know if you can see that or if it's worth showing, but you can imagine hands resting on thighs. For some folks, belly might be a nice spot. So you can really just feel into where your hands might want to go. And if you're not sure, then I would say thighs might be a nice place to start, because your arms can be really easy and resting on your thighs, right? And so we're thinking about containment can be considered a resource. So resources are things that we use to help us in difficult moments. So we have internal resources and we have external resources. And external resources would be things like um, calling a friend if you're in distress, or upset about something, making a phone call, reaching out to somebody, making a hot cup of tea, taking a bath, you know, petting your furry friend, going for a walk, things that are sort of in the external environment. And internal resources would be things like this containment practice would be a good internal resource, because it's something that, doesn't sort of involve external things. It could be doing yoga or a movement practice, going for a walk, some kind of exercise, um, breath work, visualizations, all kinds of things like that. So containment is a nice way, particularly if you're feeling maybe a little bit stressed or overwhelmed, to just kind of come back to center a little bit. And so the sort of simplest is to find a spot. Again, I'm going to do my upper arm just for sake of visibility here on the screen. And I'm resting my hand on my arm, and I'm not squeezing, right? It's as a massage therapist, it's hard not to do that. I'm not going to squeeze or massage my arm. Just kind of a nice rest of my hand on my arm. I'm just noticing what that feels like. So maybe I notice a little bit of heat coming off of my hand. I can notice that spot on my arm feels a little bit different temperature wise than the rest of my arm. Noticing the pressure. Maybe I even notice the fabric under my hand. And again, this can be a nice one to kind of bring down a little bit if there's a lot of energy up in your head, if it feels like there's stress or overwhelm. This is a great one. Again, really easy to do in the grocery store. I get keep bringing up the grocery store. I get a little overwhelmed in the grocery store if you can't tell, especially Wegmans. So I like to bring in some of these practices there. So for me, you can I'm wearing a sweatshirt with some pockets here. Let's say you're wearing a jacket, right? Stick your hands in your pockets. Like so right now I've got my hands in my pockets and I can feel my hands on my belly. So I'll do that in the grocery store sometimes. It's just okay, there's my belly. Or, it could be put your hands in your pant pocket. Okay, there's my thigh. So easy things to do in public if it feels like that would be helpful to kind of calm your nervous system. And then one other containment practice that's really nice is basically a self hold or self hug. So for this one, you would take your right hand, and you can really do it kind of both ways, right? Right hand crosses over and kind of tucks just under that left armpit. And then your left hand wraps around the right outer arm here. Right. And so here we've got contact with both hands. And then feel a little pressure from your arms on your chest. Hopefully that feels a little bit calming. And again, here, just taking a couple rounds of breath, noticing what that's like. It's actually making me sleepy pretty quickly. It's feeling pretty calming right away. Yeah. So that's a self hug. And, could just as easily do it the other way. That feels more comfortable. And again, it's sort of a gentle pressure, right? I'm not squeezing, but just a nice little weight there with the hands. And let's see. Oh, can I explain why it's called containment? Sure. Um, so yeah, so we think about um containment, it's just sort of a way to kind of draw a boundary of the body, right? So a lot of times with stress, we can think about our energies going out, or maybe a lot of us on a day-to-day basis are, can dissociate. It's like, oh, I just spaced out there for a second, what did you say? um, which happens a lot, or, get caught up in daydreams. So containment, really, we're just thinking about kind of holding a physical container, right? And particularly important if you might be someone who has a tendency to kind of space out a lot or get stressed out. Again, sort of energy we think about coming up this way. Think about containing, like, okay, there's my body, right? And sometimes that can even be helpful to say, like, my hands are on my thighs. Like maybe you don't want to say that in the grocery store while you're practicing it, save that for home. But, and then also we're thinking about just creating, so it's sort of multifold, creating a safe container, creating a container for any sensations that might come up, emotions, um, anything that might come up as we're working through nervous system work, because there can be all kinds of stuff that can come up. So hopefully that's clear. Let me know if it's not. Okay. Any other questions about containment before we move on to the last practice? You're welcome. And well, we're cruising right along in time here. So we'll do that. The last practice is kind of a speedy one. Any other questions? Cool. Okay. So the last one, this is probably one of my favorites, is the kidney adrenal practice. And so when we think about kidneys and adrenals, probably, again, a lot of us, I would suspect in more recent times, I've heard a lot about the adrenals, adrenaline, right? The adrenals produce adrenaline, cortisol, epinephrine, norepinephrine. Um, and as I mentioned earlier, these sort of hormones that get labeled as bad, right? Stress hormones, bad hormones. Um, However, we do need them in the right balance. Cortisol short term is a really great anti-inflammatory. If you've ever maybe had a cortisone shot, right, for pain, and the short term is, or we think about corticosteroids if you have some kind of, a skin issue, or so all kinds of things that cortisone type of products are used. Um, so cortisol in the short term is great. Cortisol in the long run actually creates inflammation, can create all kinds of other issues. And adrenaline is also meant to be a very sort of short acting, you see your cat running into the road and there's a car coming, you want adrenaline. You need to go and save your cat, right? um so these things that we need in the proper balance, but when our systems start to get dysregulated, these these hormones tend to get pumped out in either too much, not enough, just completely dysregulated, right? So here we're thinking about, oh, and I should even explain where the adrenals are just in case anyone doesn't know. So the adrenals rest just on top of our kidneys, right? So we've got two kidneys. Most of us, perhaps some of us, have had one removed or donated a kidney to someone, but most of us are born with two kidneys, and they're kind of tucked just up under the low back ribs, right? So if it's comfortable to kind of find the small of your waist, that's about the 12th rib, low rib. And then you can kind of imagine the kidneys are tucked just up under there. Interesting fun fact about kidneys is that when we're under a lot of stress, they can actually kind of travel up towards our shoulder blades. They can kind of, retract up into our bodies a bit, which is interesting. Um, So the adrenals sit just on top of the kidneys. And some folks kind of break this practice down into just adrenals, and some folks will do kidney adrenal. I like to practice it with both, because if our adrenals are stressed, it's likely that our kidneys are stressed. When we do the kidney adrenal practice, we're just offering support to our kidneys and adrenals. And there are a few visualizations that we can do. One is to kind of imagine the kidneys and adrenals floating in a salt bath, right? Because most of us, I think, probably find baths relaxing. So just any nourishing image that's helpful for you. Um, so the salt bath is kind of a good one to start with. Um, and what else do I want to say about that? Yeah. So you're certainly welcome to bring in that visualization if it helps. And so then when we do work with our own kidney and adrenals. Um, for most of us, it'll probably be more comfortable to place hands on the front side. So, of course, because our ribs are there on either side, we're not actually touching the kidney and adrenals. And so we can certainly support them from the front. And so here again, we'll just kind of find the low ribs. That'll be sort of just under sort of breast line. And they're just kind of towards the back body from there. So you're welcome to do one at a time. You could do both. And again, just kind of a gentle rest of the hands on your low ribs there. You could do this sitting up. You could do this lying down. You certainly could do it standing. It can be quite nice to lie down and do this practice, or sort of reclining, a chair that can recline. And so here again, we're just offering support. And I would say whatever yeah, whatever words feel helpful. I'm trying to think of what my inner monologue is when I'm supporting my kidney and adrenals. And it's just sometimes it's just I might just say to myself, supporting kidney adrenals, and just offering that support. So really simple. If you want to try, depends what's going on, depends what will be going on in your shoulders. Some of us are able to get our hands around back. For a lot of us, might not be comfortable, but you're certainly welcome to bring your hands around back. And it might be more comfortable to just do one at a time that way. But that's not comfortable for a lot of folks. So hands on the front side. And then the last option would be to, if this would work best if you're lying down, would be to take something, either a heating pad, or just a little washcloth, or you could even use a sock and just slide it under the kidney adrenal area. And that way it just gives a little bit of feedback, right? It doesn't have to be a hand. It just gives a little bit of feedback to the area. It's like, hey, we're here. And then, the visualizations, any just sort of whatever supportive language, or if it's just that, like, I'm focusing on my kidneys and adrenals right now, that's actually incredibly effective as well. And could just start out with a couple minutes of that, see what that's like. I'm reading about. Okay, I don't know about somatorespiratory integration, so unfortunately, I can't talk about it. But I will look it up because now I'm intrigued. Somatorespiratory integration. I mean, I could speculate about what I think that is, but we probably have enough to talk about, and I'm definitely not an expert, but I'm going to write that down because I'd like to find out more about that. Somatorespiratory integration. So I'm sorry that I can't answer that question. So much I don't know in this work. There's always more and more and more to know. And the more I learn, the less I know, it seems. Okay, so any other questions about the kidney adrenal practice? Um, Let me think if there's any last tidbits I want to offer on that. Um, One thing that you might notice, if this is something that you practice regularly, you might notice that there are some shifts that happen. When I a number of years ago first started doing this work, and I was going through an online program, and we got to the portion on the kidney adrenal work, there was a span of about a week where it was like, and I'm not someone who usually gets up often in the night to use the restroom, but it was like every hour I was going to the bathroom because it was like something was moving through, kidneys or um, filtering urine, right? So something was filtering. So it's really interesting to notice what happens when we do these supposedly really simple practices. Okay. Good techniques for breaks from devices. Yes, the chaos in the environment. Yes, exactly. And that's an excellent point because, you know, all this modern technology is wonderful. Like, we couldn't be here doing this if we didn't have technology. And, our systems really take a big hit living in modern technology and the modern world. And, with screens, with all the fragrances, with chemicals, with all the things that we unfortunately all know are too prevalent in our lives. But certainly, yeah, take a break from the screen. And orienting, right, is like if you're at a computer for work, 8 hours a day, maybe spend 2 minutes doing orienting in the morning and 2 minutes in the afternoon, schedule an orienting break, and just get away from the computer screen. But yeah, definitely, excuse me, definitely a welcome practice for um, getting away from screens. Okay.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Can you provide some tangible examples of what that relieves a person from throughout the day? I think
The
you did, but if you could
the breaks from technology, you mean?
just
Or which?
these different techniques. Like,
Mm,
is it going to provide someone something short term? Is it going to provide something long? I mean, long term. Do right? Do both.
yes and yes. Yes, I would say yes to all the things. Um, yeah, I would say again, it's because we work in these bite-sized pieces. I mean, it's possible that you could see big shifts very quickly. It's more likely that you might notice, like, oh, I was able to read three more sentences and pay attention longer than usual. Or, like you might notice these little things on a daily basis. And then over the long term, maybe 6 months into some of these practices, and you think, like, wow, oh my gosh, I can't believe that, because all the little things, which on a daily basis might not seem that big, they start to add up. Um, and I would say certainly all of these on a daily basis will just bring anyone into more contact with their systems, which again, like all the modern technology is effectively designed to take us out of ourselves, and so any of these practices, like where we're either supporting our adrenals or we're, doing containment practices, that they're going to start to really bring us more into our bodies.
Thank you.
Yep. Yeah. Anyone else before we get into self massage quickly before we then head into question and answer time if there's any questions? Cool. All right. So, self massage is wonderful, I think, but I'm biased, of course. Um, so self massage can be really nice, a nice way to also come back into our bodies, right? Make some contact with our bodies. Um, Probably a lot of us also spend our days, it's like we use our bodies to do things, right? And so, which tend to take up most of our day. So, spending some time doing self massage is a nice way to just connect with our bodies and maybe even provide some relief of some sort, um, and just be in our bodies. So let's start with an area, of course, that can get really tense, which is the jaw, right? Probably most of us have experienced some jaw tension at some point, and we'll actually kind of do the whole face and jaw. Um, but certainly, Many folks clench their teeth at night, grind their teeth. If you wear a mouth guard at night, probably, you're someone who's prone to clenching or grinding teeth. Um, Often, um, anger, stress, all those things can go sort of a connection between jaw and hips. Those are two places that can really kind of take a beating with stressful times. So a little bit of jaw work can be really nice. So pretty simple. Again, all these techniques are pretty simple. So we'll just kind of find some landmarks. I'm gonna lose my glasses here so I can be unhindered. So you can just sort of locate your cheekbones there, take a little trip around your face, and then kind of slides over towards the ears. Right, come to the top of the jawbone. You'll feel sort of a horizontal bone there. And then the masseter, which is that really, really strong chewing muscle, which runs this way down the face. We'll kind of take our fingers and make a little line using our fingertips. And we'll place them just kind of underneath that cheekbone all the way towards the ear. And then just experiment a little with pressure. Again, if you're someone who tends to clench at night or clench during the day, this can be really tender. So, go gently enough that it's not feeling painful, right? And I see some of you experimenting too. Yep, you can sort of start to drag your fingers down the side of your face, going along the masseter. And you might, as you start to get lower down towards the chin, you might allow the mouth to open. And the masseter wraps all the way around the bottom of the jawbone here. So sometimes I like to take my thumbs and just kind of hook them just under. We don't want to, of course, kind of get into the neck where there are all kinds of glands and lymph nodes, but really sticking to the jawbone there, just the underside of the jawbone. Just exploring a little bit there. Yeah, and you can really experiment here. I say the only, so I also teach a yoga and self-massage class at the vet school, and we use tennis balls for self-massage. And I always sort of joke with the students there that the only rule I really have about self-massage is don't, either use fingers or the tennis ball somewhere where you don't want someone poking their finger, right? So eyes, throat, temples, you could go sort of softly, but anywhere where it would feel uncomfortable to have a finger jammed, stay away from that area. But otherwise, you can really play around. You do, I'll explain it first before, can't talk through it. Kind of gently move the jaw side to side as you're working down the masseter. You could sort of protract and retract the bottom jaw. Again, just play around with anything that feels interesting. And again, keeping the pressure anywhere that's not painful. So you might feel some tender spots, but if you're feeling anything that's painful or you find you're starting to brace against the pressure, then back off a little bit. Good. And then give the jaw a little wiggle around. And then for the rest of the face, again, there are some techniques, but we just kind of experiment here along the forehead. I like to, again, kind of line up my fingers so they kind of create a little blade. Fingers meet here in the middle. And I do a little gentle pressure and then just start to slowly slide my fingers on each side towards the right side and left side of my head. Just thinking about it's almost like sweeping across that forehead. And you can even start really kind of right over the eyebrows. See what it's like to kind of drag. I have my sort of above and below my eyebrows with my middle and ring finger. So got that ridge, that bony ridge kind of between the middle and ring finger. And again, just sweeping towards the outside of the face. And again, once you get to the temples, a little gentle pressure there, but you don't want too much pressure. And then you can do the same thing, kind of starting on the bridge of the nose, maybe using just a few fingers here, sweeping down over that cheekbone. Maybe two passes there. This is the part that looks really funny. You can kind of go through the upper lip. This might not be a grocery store practice. This might be an at-home practice. And then kind of chin, below the mouth. And again, experiment a little with pressure. And certainly go up the cheeks, see what that's like. And just sort of testing the elasticity of the face. So again, pretty simple techniques. And then coming around to the ears. So I just got my thumb behind my ears. And so like if this was my ear, kind of coming this way. Got the ear in between my thumb and index finger. And just kind of a gentle tug. I'm kind of going back. Could certainly do a gentle tug up. Going over this cartilage of the ears. You do a few passes, starting towards the top of the ear and working your way down. Good. Nice. And then just allowing your hands to relax down in your lap and just take a moment to notice if it's comfortable to allow your eyes to close. You're welcome to do that. Just take a moment to notice how your face feels now. Notice if there's been any shift of any kind. Okay, any questions about that? Or does it all seem pretty straightforward? Pretty straightforward. Excellent. All right. Let's do maybe we do one more and then excuse me, I'm gonna leave time for any other questions or discussion. So Um, Shoulders are a place that hold a lot of tension for sure. And it can be a little bit challenging to work on your own shoulders without really tiring out your hands. So, one place that can be really nice to work is sort of the pectoral, front body area because it's really easy to access. It's a lot easier just working on yourself, and often starting to open the front body can provide a lot of relief for the shoulders. So, just get my sweatshirt out of the way here. So we're thinking about kind of starting with the sternum, right? Breastbone. You can locate the breastbone. Maybe just using both hands to find find the limits of the outline of the breastbone. You'll notice a little notch there at the top. That's where the collarbones attach. And then, of course, in the middle, it's nice and sturdy there. And then as you go off to the side, you might notice, oh, yeah, there's a bump. Oh, there's another bump. Those are the ribs, right? And in between those bumps, we've got what's called the intercostal spaces, which have all these little muscles in between. So you might notice some of those places are a little tender. So you can start to explore a little bit here. You might also notice that there's a muscle here called subclavius right under the collarbone that can get tender as well. So it's exploring these areas. And I tend to like to work kind of from the center out, right? Because most of us, if we're on our devices or I'm doing massage, right, my arms out in front of me, or on computers, most of us have a tendency to be a little bit rounded forward. So it can be nice to think about working from middle to the outer body, which we're thinking opening, right? And again, this can be done seated, it can be done lying down, standing. So here, I'm just gently allowing my fingers to slide out towards my shoulder. You could also, if you have a shirt, that the sliding might not be so easy. So you could always make little circles, just press in each spot, anything that feels useful, right? You could even bring a little bit of arm movement in, see what that does. Right, so our pecs are attached to our arm bones. So you might feel the muscles start to shift a little bit as you raise your arm up. And here, of course, you can kind of work as far down off of the sternum as you like. Those of us with larger breast tissue, it'll be a little bit more challenging to get under the full width of the pec muscles, but you can certainly, work wherever feels, again, maybe you're getting some tender spots, but if there's any pain, steer clear of those spots. So lots of places to explore here. And again, this can be a nice way to come back into your body, right? Like you're actually physically in contact with the body. And the nervous system practices plus self massage are kind of a nice combination because effectively we are reaching our soft tissue through the nervous system. We access our physical bodies through our nervous system. So The two can be really nice complements to each other. So you could certainly um, keep the practices separate. You could, if you've got a little more time, you could maybe do orienting and then do a little self massage, or do some self massage and then orienting. Play around with what what seems like an interesting combination of things. And again, there's no sort of right or wrong to these practices. It's about tuning into what feels useful and interesting and safe in your body. And yeah, you can really kind of do a lot with it. Um, so let me make sure there wasn't anything else I wanted to add before I see if anyone has questions. think I think I got most of it in. So hopefully, hopefully that most of the information I presented was clear. But happy to answer questions, or if you just have some observations about, what did we do? Five practices. Do you have observations or thoughts or anything? Please feel free to chime in.
I'll chime in.
All
Thank you
right.
very much. That was great.
Oh, good.
Lots of good information. Um, do have one question. I was at physical therapy a week or so ago and discovered what appears to be some batches of scar tissue. Any self massage suggestions for breaking that up? It's in
Yes,
the
do it.
in the abdominal area right next
Yeah.
to the hip greater trochanter.
Next to the greater trochanter. And it's sort of low, so then it would be
Yeah, definitely lower.
lower abdomen almost off to the hip.
Yep.
Yep. So yeah, so for scar tissue, castor oil is extremely effective. And maybe Bert can also chime in about this because I know that he's done a lot of castor oil scar tissue work. Um, but yeah, castor oil is super amazing for healing kind of all the things. I feel like it's one of these unicorn things, but certainly for scar tissue. And really, with scar tissue, go in all the directions. So do you have sort of like a line that goes in a certain way? Is it, where an incision was? Um,
So I had robotic surgery to remove the prostate. So there were
okay.
six prongs,
Okay.
three going in on each side.
Uh-huh.
So it's kind of, and it seems focused on the right side.
Okay. So maybe you have sort of a few different pockets of
Yep.
scar tissue. Yeah. So in each of the areas, I would say castor oil, and then go in sort of all the directions so you can go up and down, sort of vertically, horizontally, diagonally. You can make little circles. But when we think about scar tissue, on the one hand, it's like, well, our bodies are brilliant because they're like, oh crap, we got to start fixing this. And they just start throwing these collagen fibers down to try to sew up what's been cut, right? Which is great because we want to heal. And it's just sort of these haphazard um, this haphazard pile of collagen fibers because the body is frantically trying to heal itself. So by kind of doing the self massage, the scar tissue, the extra sort of scar tissue that's not there will end up sort of being resorbed by the body, and the fibers will start to realign in a way that doesn't cause like adhesions or fascial pulls or anything like that.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. 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 And a few times a week. I mean, every day would be fantastic, but a few times a week. And again, just it'll be something that like it'll probably take a little bit of time, but if you're consistent with it, there will be changes for sure.
Now for self massage in the back, I definitely
Oh
highly
yeah, Theracane.
and the question mark.
And the question mark, yeah. Yep, that's perfect. Yeah. Do you have a preference between that one or the Theracane?
They both have great points to them.
Hmm.
Depending upon, but yeah, the question mark has a much larger
Uh-huh.
angle at the end, so that's like nice around the shoulder blade. But then I like where you can get in on those little nubbies in a lot
Yep.
of that, you know, yeah. So that's, you know, comparison
Nice.
question mark.
Right. You can get both sides of the back at once if you're coordinated.
But Drew, as Shira said, I kind of test to self-massage on scar tissue with castor oil because I've been cut from the sternum to the top of the pelvic bone twice, and there's pretty heavy-duty scarring, and I massaged castor oil in it daily for months, and the scars were softer, like significantly, and
So you massage the castor oil right directly on the skin then.
Mhm.
I'm
And
used
you
to
won't need much, it's I don't know if you've used castor oil before, but it's thick. Um, so, you won't need a ton.
I'm used to the castor oil packs with the heat
Yep.
water bottle. Or
yeah, it helped.
where's the best place to get castor oil around here?
I've gotten it at Green Star. I haven't I haven't looked at Wegmans because Wegmans is too stressful for me, as I mentioned earlier. Um, and I think I compared, prices like on Amazon versus Green Star, and they were the same. And ideally, you want to get cold pressed castor oil in a glass, like a dark glass bottle, that will keep it from going rancid. I want to say the brand is something like American Heritage or something like that. But if I remember, it has like a pink label. But Green Star has a few options. I feel like I've seen it in more and more places, so it's possible that CVS or Kinney's or places like that would have it as well. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. And let me just check the chat here. Well, this is being recorded. Hopeful. Yes. Yes. Yeah, and I'm sure that I don't know, Bert, do you send the recordings out at some point or how does it or is it posted somewhere?
It's posted on our website and our YouTube channel, but the easiest way is just to go to crcfl.net and you go to services and you'll be able to click the link to go to all of our Living Well with Cancer webinars. I should have this up by the middle of next week.
And also I'm gonna pop my email.
Yeah, sure. I wanted you to tell everybody what your website URL is and contact info in case they want to follow up with you, connect with you.
Um, oops, there's no capital. So yeah, if you have questions, you're welcome to, yes, I did spell my name right. Questions that you have about any of this, happy to answer. Feel free to check out my website. I have a lot more there about nervous system work, about the modality that I offer, touch work. But if you want a refresher, like I said, just have questions about any of these practices or anything we talked about today, feel free to send me an email. Happy to answer any questions. Um, yeah, and we have a little bit more time. So, anyone else have any thoughts, noticings, questions, queries about my anxiety around Wegmans?
I found massaging the face really comforting.
Mm,
Um, I was socialized not to touch my face at an early age, because of having face breakouts. And, I put cream on my face every day and I have a really good skincare routine, but putting my hands on my face and it was very comforting in addition to relaxing.
mhm.
So that was unexpected benefit
Oh,
on,
that's great.
on both parts.
Yeah, yeah, because it's also like, with the skincare routine, it's something that you have to do for your skin, right? And this is just, maybe it would be interesting to just spend some time exploring your face, right?
I,
Exploring the contours of the cheekbones, you know, nasal bone, bridge of the brow. Probably not a lot of us take the time to do this. Yeah. So yeah, thanks for sharing. That's
well, and
great.
I didn't know that socialization was still in there because I was like, I can't put my hands on my face. And it's like, I'm not 16 anymore. But I mean, that was so entrenched in there that at first I was reluctant. Like, oh no, I can't touch my face. Sure,
Yeah.
I can. Of course I can.
Sure can.
Hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have to say that it fascinates me that the nervous system regulation techniques work.
Mm.
I know you well enough to know that they do work. Otherwise, you wouldn't be
Right.
sharing them. But they're so incredibly simple. You just
Right.
you're like, is this
That's
going
where it's like, is this like, is she for real right now?
to do anything for me? But but hearing that it does.
Yes. Yep. Yep. You've seen me talk and practice ad nauseum over the last 4+ years about and the change that that's brought to my life. So
Yeah, I've observed the change, and it's incredible.
yeah. Mhm. Yep. Animals are also good for regulating the nervous system.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, not my pup. I'm just dog sitting, but I'll take
And
it.
they love massage.
They do. Yes. I've met very few dogs who don't love massage.
Hmm.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else have any other questions or queries, noticings? Nope. Thank you. All right. So yeah, my contact info is in the chat. Like I said, please feel free to reach out if you're curious about anything. I'm always happy to talk more about nerdy massage stuff and nervous system stuff. So yeah, and thanks to Cancer Resource Center for inviting me to
Yes.
the chat.
You're welcome. And Q Medical Cancer Center. And yeah, we have this the third Tuesday of every month. The next month will be acupuncture. There'll be more specific information.
Is that would happen to be my office mate?
It happens to be. Yeah,
It's
you
a very,
guys.
very skilled acupuncturist.
Yeah, so the benefits of that we'll be doing next month. So thank you everyone for coming. Shira, thank you so much for presenting. And everyone have a great night.